All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We're actually live and streaming. I'm going to be covering a very specific topic today, which is how to connect your patent or your patent ideas to your business model or your revenue. Let me start off by saying this, that, there's a lot of data out there that, analysts perform on patents and they provide information. And the data has come up as high as, it's said, for example, about 95% of patents are worthless. It's not because, the patents have no value, but as a general rule, companies fail to understand the simple principle that getting a patent, while it's a powerful tool, it has to be the right kind of patent. You have to understand that the patent has to tie into something that is at least a business model, unless you're doing it for a point of pride. And now I've had people call me and say, hey, I've got this idea. I don't really care about enforcing it. I just want a patent so I can say to the world, hey, I created this, I came up with this, so this is my idea. But today I'm going to try to tackle the idea of how to connect your patent or your patent ideas to a revenue model. So when clients come to us, and I find that this is very unique to us, and a lot of patent attorneys don't explore this with their client, one of the things we ask them about, of course, is their idea. So we want to know what your idea is about. I want you to explain it to us so that we can write up a detailed patent application that covers your idea. And of course, by the time we start to the time the patent actually gets issued by the patent office, your idea may have been improved, it may have emerged, it may be different. That's okay, but at least when we start off, we need to know what your idea is. The other thing we do, which we always try to explore, is how do you plan to make money from this idea? Now, some people's ideas are mechanical in nature. Some people's ideas are hardware components. Other people's ideas are software components. Regardless of what your idea is, if you haven't thought about the business side of it, there's going to be a challenge in writing a valuable patent. Now, remember, statistics and analytics and all this stuff about patent applications have looked at patents and said, anything close to 95% of all the patents that have issued are worthless because they are not, in my opinion, that's because they're not patents that really target the revenue stream, or at least focus on the revenue stream. They're just patents that protect the idea, and then enforcing those ideas is difficult because remember, patents are not the right to do something. Rather, patents are the right to stop others from doing something. Sometimes we call that a negative right. Of course, when you are the patent holder, you can stop everybody from doing what's in the patent except yourself. So that's one thing that allows you to control who makes the product. But going back to the idea itself and thinking about the idea, when we ask some of our clients, hey, what's your business model? How are you going to make money from this? We often get, an answer that indicates they haven't really thought about it, which is a challenge. So if you're really going to think about how you're going to make money from your idea and put a business plan together around your idea, that is what I would always be interested in knowing. And I'll tell you this because many, many years ago, going almost 15, even more than that, almost 25 years ago, I had the opportunity to represent a client that had an idea, they had patented it, and they had licensed a third party, a manufacturer, to make it for them. However, because their patent wasn't written in a very precise manner with the revenue stream in mind, the party that they licensed to make the patent became a cheaper source for the product than the original patent holder. And why did they become a cheaper source? Because the original patent holder licensed them. The license was so broad and it wasn't, basically fine-tuned, and the patent covered a lot of different things, a lot of different ideas, which resulted in the manufacturer being able to sell the product cheaper. And the reason they could sell it cheaper was because they didn't have all the money invested in R&D and development of the product. So that's my first introduction to revenue stream as it relates to ideas. So let's start to break this down a little bit. Now, I'm talking about revenue, I'm talking about having a business model, and it's quite easy to go out there and think about your business model. It's a little bit harder to put the pieces together. In my opinion, it really becomes a challenge for the patent attorney to put the idea alongside the revenue model and really start to look at it. And this is kind of what I want to start explaining to people. Some people have said to me, why are you explaining this, thing that makes your firm so unique? Why are you telling everybody about it? And my real point is, why not? Why not tell everybody about it? Why not create patents that are more valuable? Why not overcome these analytics that go out there and look at all these different patents and say, 95% of the patents are worthless because they're not written well, they're not strong patents, they're not good blocking function patents. And I want to explain that away. I want to be able to tell people, hey, what do you really need to do when you file a patent application to ensure that you protect your idea and your revenue stream? So I'll start with this concept. When you're thinking about your idea, you are probably going to come up with multiple different ways of executing your idea. So you'll have approach A, approach B, and approach C. And after you experiment and play around and do some experimentation with different ways of making this product, you'll find that B is the best way to do it. So then you take B and the whole concept to your patent attorney. You say, hey, look, here's my idea. You explain B to them. The patent attorney, of course, forgets to ask you about your revenue plans and your revenue model, and you never explain A or C to the patent attorney. You may say, yeah, I've tried other ways, but they didn't work, and I think B is the best way, and this is the way we're going to do it. And so the patent attorney writes up your patent, gets you through the process, and you have an issued patent that covers B. Well, guess what? If A and B are different, even though they achieve the same function, it's quite possible that someone could go out there, write a patent on A, even though it's not the best way to do it, it's not the most efficient way. They could write a patent on A, get that patent through the patent office, and have something that is competing with yours, even though it may not be the best way. I mean, just looking at an analogy, looking at various different car manufacturers, everybody has their own opinion as to who is the best car manufacturer. But not everyone always buys only that product. Sometimes they buy a different car manufacturer, maybe because the price is better, maybe because it's a little cheaper. Same thing with computers or shirts or shoes or jackets or whatever you want to think about. So in one aspect of protecting your revenue, the important thing is to make sure that you include different ways of doing your idea. So if B was the best way, don't just focus on B in the patent application, also write about A and C. The reason I say that is because once you include something in your patent application and your patent publishes or eventually becomes an issued patent and becomes publicly known, it prevents other people from coming along and writing patent applications on A and C, because you've publicly disclosed it. Even though you only claimed B, you wrote about A, B, and C. This is something that is very important to understand when it comes to protecting the revenue stream. Because again, remember, your product may be the best, but someone may be able to make a slightly cheaper, a little inferior product. And what does that do to your revenue stream? It diverts revenue away from you. Someone's not going to come buy your great product and an inferior product at the same time. They're either going to buy one or the other. And if budget is a concern for them, they might go off and buy the cheaper product. Now, the question I always get asked is, well, if I did disclose A, B, and C, but I only claimed B, well, can't someone still go out there and make A and read my patent and make A and, produce the product and, go out there and divert revenue? The answer to that is probably yes, they could. However, they're doing it without legal protection. In other words, at any point in time, you could come along and try to enforce your patent by saying that the difference between A and B is not enough, that the difference between A and B results in the same function. So you still have a chance of enforcing against them. And number two, when they try to compete with you with an unprotected idea, remember, everybody else can start to replicate their idea, which then takes away their revenue stream, which then makes it harder for them to survive and compete and have a product. So bottom line, one of the first things you need to do when you start to think about your revenue stream and your business model is start to think about what are the different ways that my product can be made, my product can be produced, and what's the best way. Okay, that's the one I'm going to make, and I'm going to protect that one. And I'm going to disclose the alternative ways so that other people can't go file for patent protection on it because it's already disclosed. Because one of the rules of the patent office is you can't get a patent on something that somebody's already disclosed or it's been made public. All right, so now let's decide one other thing. If you disclose A, B, and C, and you only claim B, you still have the option before your patent issues, which could be anywhere from a year to 3 years down the road, to file a continuation application and also capture A. You notice that someone is making A, so you just go out there and you file a continuation application off of your main one, and you get the claims that cover A. Now, because you've disclosed it, not only are you able to prevent others from getting patents on it, but you're also able to come along and file for claims that protect A. And you can do the same later on down the road for C. The point I'm making is this. If throughout the process, you've thought about how you're going to make money from your idea, and you've identified the best way to make your idea, you should absolutely discuss alternative ways of doing or achieving the same result, even though the alternative ways may be inferior products. All right, so that's one way of looking at your revenue stream. And that's one way of protecting your revenue stream through the disclosure of the application and not the claims necessarily. Now let's move on and talk about the claims. If you have an idea and you want to protect that idea and make money from it, it is important to understand how you're going to make money from your product. For example, if your product is software, you may be making money from selling apps that people download for $1 or $2 or whatever, and your app does all kinds of things. You may be making money from giving the app away for free, but storing data, in which case the data is stored by you, managed by you, and protected by you. The same software that is going to be, the source of your revenue by being sold individually versus the same software that's going to be the source of your revenue by providing it for free, but doing the storage or the data management for it, could also be something that is of value to somebody else if or installed within their product. These are all different revenue streams. These are all different ways of writing the claim language. And if the patent attorney doesn't know these things, for whatever reason they didn't ask, or you didn't share it with them, then they're probably going to write a patent that covers your methodology without appreciation for the revenue stream. And what do I specifically mean by that? When writing a claim to cover an invention, you can write the claim at a system level, you can write the claim at a component level, you can write the claim from the perspective of a server, you can write the claim from the perspective of what happens on the device. So there's all these different points of view that you can use to write the claim. Once you write the claim from a generic point of view, you've ignored the revenue stream. However, if you write the claim specific for a particular revenue stream, now you're taking into account the specific application of that idea in a particular approach that the client has or the inventor has for making money. So let's go back to our example of software. Let's say you have software that you're going to download on a device. Everything you write has to be from the perspective of that software on the device. So what does the software receive? What does it send? Because you're making money from downloading the software. On the other hand, if you're going to give the software away for free and you're going to manage the data then everything you write has to be from the perspective of the server that receives and stores the data, even though it's still communicating with that same software. So the language of the claim changes based on perspective. Of course, when a patent attorney listens to what I'm saying, they're going to have a moment and go, oh yeah, I get what he's saying. And I can do that, of course. And that's what I'm here to explain, is how would you do that? Is it a good idea for me to share secret sauce with everybody? I don't know. People tell me I'm crazy for doing it, but I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to tell people how we do things, hoping that it becomes more of a recognized way of practicing instead of just writing patent applications. And of course, when you go to places where they write patent applications and they just get it in and get it out and don't take any of this stuff into consideration, you're going to run into issues when you go to enforce. If your claim has to have the device that downloads the software and the server and this and that, but it's going to be really hard to enforce the claim. On the other hand, getting a broad claim that looks at one point of view in light of the revenue stream is very important. Now, that being said, those are the two main things that you need to take into consideration when working with your patent attorney. And both of them depend on you as the inventor being able to explain your invention and giving a little bit of thought to your revenue stream. So when you talk to your patent attorney, if you can't explain your business model, if you can't explain how you're going to make money from this product, you need to take the time to do that before you talk to the patent attorney. They need to understand this. Now, some patent attorneys will listen to it, but they will not take any action to incorporate it into your patent application simply because they don't know how, or they haven't thought about it, or they're not familiar with it. So they're going to stick to what's comfortable for them. And that is why we spend a lot of time with our clients asking them questions like, how are you going to make money from this? Okay, what's going to happen? Who's going to do this part? What's going to happen here? And so we begin to understand the software itself, as well as how the software is going to make money. Or if you have an article or manufacture, whatever it may be, then we start to explore those things with them. Of course, the discussions may be more complicated if the technology is very complicated, and the discussions may be simple if the technology is more straightforward. But the point is that discussion has to be had. Now, I've taken a fair amount of time here kind of explaining this idea of claiming a particular perspective and looking at the revenue model. So I just want to do a quick recap. When we're talking about revenue-based patents, when we're trying to move away from 95% of patents being worthless and, getting into a space where patents really have value and can be enforced more effectively, first of all, you need to think about various ways of creating or implementing your ideas. Even though there is a best way, you still need to think about other variations that can be made and disclose those variations. In our applications, we do our best for our client to make sure we capture all of those different variations. So number one, disclose all the different variations so that no one else can go out there and write patent applications to capture those ideas, no matter how inferior or narrow their patents may be. And by disclosing it up front, you can come back 2 or 3 years down the road before your first patent issues and file a continuation and claim those other alternatives. The second thing is when the claims of the patent are written, they have to be very clearly written from the point of view of what is generating the revenue. If the revenue is being generated from downloading the software, then everything needs to focus on what that software does in terms of what it receives and what it sends. Not mix it in with what the server sends and receives and what the device receives. On the other hand, if you're talking specifically about having money made from data management with a server, then at that point, you need to write the claim specific to that. So point number one, disclose all the different ways of doing it so you can later come back and claim it and prevent other people from claiming it. And point number two, when you write the claims, make sure that they are focused on what's going to generate the revenue. Now, in some instances, there may be no difference because there isn't a second or third way of making money. That's fine. At least you've thought about it at least you've incorporated that in your discussion with your patent attorney. That about wraps up what the revenue patents are about. Of course, if you need more detail, you'd like to consult and come talk to us, we're happy to do it. But I'm going to open the floor up, and Nicole is here to help me answer or capture the questions so that I can do my best to answer them. And Paula and Daryl, thank you both for being here. We appreciate your time and energy. If you guys have specific questions about this topic, please put them out there, and I'll be happy to try to answer them. Nicole, do we have any questions coming in from the live stream that we're doing?
Yeah, none coming through on Facebook today, Jubin.
Okay. Very good. So at this point, I don't, unless someone else has a specific question, there's no need to continue and hold everybody up. I will say this, if you think of any questions, you're welcome to email us and reach out to us. Our email is pretty simple. It's info@ and then DanaLegalServices.com. Basically, it's DanaLegalServices.com. So info@, and we'd be happy to get back to you, schedule a consult if needed, or do the best to answer your questions. That's all for now. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to reach out, please do so.